It's Will here. Hopefully, you're having a great day today. In this one, we're going to go over the top AI space tech company that I'm watching here. And here on Saturday, there's some important moves we're going to watch as the market approaches what could be a rebound from this big sell off we saw in Oracle. And most tech, well, every single type of industry basically had a slight pullback on Friday. And we see the space tech market, we got a pretty large list, but we're going to jump into it here on Black Sky. Hopefully you enjoy. Okay, so Black Sky is an AI defense company that specializes in the satellite imagery using AI to do the analysis of what's happening down on Earth. So when it comes to their main focus, they have deployed many different satellites with top government agencies and international contracts. And you see that after their IPO here in 2021, they ended up selling down from around $100 a share to then stabilizing just around this $5 to $10 range before actually making an uptrend over the last year. So you can see around this time last year, they were at $3.86, and then they've recovered as high as $33, and they sold back down to this $13 price point with this overall kind of uptrend. They've continued to have a rally, and then recently they started to potentially break pattern from that uptrend we started to see develop, or just kind of made their trend a little more conservative now on the recovery here. Kind of something like this might make a lot of sense. So it's possible that, again, they've pulled down and that they don't continue up, they consolidate or even drag out further to the right. But what I'm anticipating is that this is going to be kind of their new kind of trend, something like this, where they continue up into these ranges and start to make that recovery back up into that $20 to $30 price point, because the company has some things going for it. Now, with that being said, I'm just here to give you the facts. Again, it's still fairly high risk as it's a space tech company, but I will show you how space tech companies have way less risk today than they did, say, 5 years ago. When you look at BKSY, you can see they got a support level, a previous resistance that they just bounced down to around $16 a share. And they're looking to continue back up into this level of around $20 a share to $22 a share if they continue this trend. So that's between about a 10% margin to a 30% margin. And of course, then there's the longer term trend that most investors have been looking forward to, which would be up into, these ranges around, let's say, $25 a share to as high as $30 a share, which would be an 83% increase. So we do have some positions on Black Sky over in the Schwab portfolio, a little bit here in the Robinhood portfolio. We're up about 36% on the company. And at one point, we were up over 100% on this company. When you take a look at their recent developments, there's three things we look at. The market, so space tech market has been growing. They've seen a lot more spending in space tech. You even see more commercialization with companies like Starlink, and the development of consumer, let's say 5G internet from space is also very common from a lot of companies. But what you can see here is Black Sky has increased their revenue for the most part annually about 8% a year. It was just 2020 when they IPO'd, they were doing only 21 million a year. Now they're up to over 100 million a year in 2024, and then in 2025 they're on track to surpass that potentially. We'll see how they come in with the next Q4, but revenue dipped slightly in this last quarter with a negative net income. But what we've seen with this company, again, they specialize in the space-based intelligence at the speed of conflict. And you can see they got these airports where they see the different airplanes down on Earth. You could see the cars down on Earth. Very, very high definition satellite images that use AI to pinpoint what's happening down on Earth. So they have these partnerships with NASA, National Reconnaissance, National Geospatial, those departments. Then you got their Gen 3 satellite, which specializes, you can see China's Shadow Navy trains to take Taiwan. You can see they're looking at these articles of different things that are happening within the Earth or on the Earth that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see. And so they've done a lot of recent launches. You can take a look at their technology. Again, they've launched for daytime imagery. They've got stereo imagery, very, very high quality images of the Earth, burst imagery, nighttime imagery. So they got very good kind of night vision, thermal imagery, area 2:1 imagery, so seeing what's going down in ports and airports and things like that. You can see the different boats getting tracked by AI, along with the cars and people down on Earth, along with some AI analytics. So these are really helpful to actually tell. In fact, I would be interested in this as personally an entrepreneur that has a company that specializes in analytics of different companies. I mean, imagine if you could search a company and see how much traffic they have to their office, or how many people are working at their office, or things like that. That's a really interesting kind of approach. When you look at the projections, for example, from Prophecy, so the AI projections, when you consider, for example, Grok here, or OpenAI or Claude on Black Sky, is anticipating that they're bullish and they're going to continue to run up, that they have a support level around $17 a share currently. So $17 support level is where they're kind of holding above. And then as they've come out with financials recently, their market cap's at only $656 million, while their balance sheet here is at $380 million, with their total equity around $100 million. So $100 million in equity, doing nearly $100 million a year, and they're in the space tech industry. It would make sense that they could be a billion-dollar company. That would make a lot of sense, but they still are waiting on more revenue. Now, in this last quarter, or this last basically summer into this year, you could see that they had a lot of good Gen 3 images that they shared with the public, but they also had a lot of new contracts that came out. There's a $30 million multi-year contract to integrate their Gen 3 satellites. There's been a lot more international customers. Defense continues to propel Earth observation. They got the opportunities in AI and Golden Dome. They got an LGA Luno contract to track global changes with satellites and AI. Okay, they also signed a 7-figure space domain awareness expansion contract with HEO for fully automated non-Earth imaging systems. And then another 2-year contract with an international customer, with a customer 6 months from initial contract. So you have this momentum, if so-called momentum, that you could see in the contracts that would basically indicate they're going to see more revenue. But they also have the actual launch real world usage. If you look at Rocket Lab, which is another top space company, you can see that they've recently launched with Rocket Lab numerous times. This year, they launched with Rocket Lab back in June. You could see that was a mission. And then they've also launched with Rocket Lab multiple times there in 2023. Here in 2022, multiple times. There's a launch, there's a launch, there's a launch, there's a launch. Many different launches with Rocket Lab. So they already got a pretty large share of satellites up there, which is key, because you wouldn't want to be looking at a company like Black Sky and say, yeah, this could be really big. And imagine if they do this AI analytics and they don't already have the infrastructure. They already have the infrastructure. And you could see that just 21 hours ago, this is from a non-source website, so I cannot disclose if this is accurate because it's from TipRanks, and TipRanks oftentimes can have fake articles, so be very careful. Nevertheless, you could see that apparently Black Sky just entered into an agreement to sell $100 million of its stock. So it's going to increase their capital, which is probably one of the main things that is a little bit weary of their balance sheet, that I'm a little weary of, is their capital only 100 million. That's not too hot. You'd like to see them with, if they get up to say 500 million in assets to 750 million, then that market cap currently of 650 million would be ridiculously small. You'd see them most likely get up to a couple billion in market cap, which would mean that they're going to jump back up into that $25 range to $30 range, and that would be again about a 20% increase to as much as a 50% increase. So good to see they actually are raising some money. Again, it's not a red flag. It's quite common with space companies as they start to narrow the profit margins and get to cash flow positive. So they're one of our top companies, BKSY stock. We're going to be watching them throughout this week. You also got some black sky projections from Grok, for example, over the next 6 months, bullish up to $20 a share and over $23 a share towards the next year. That's on Grok. If we pulled up Claude or some other models, you'd probably have similar projections. So we'll be watching BKSY. If you want to tune into our market live session on Monday, we're there Monday through Friday at Market Open. Have a look at the links in the description below. Would love to see you there at Market Open. If you earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.